Welcome to Cheap Talk, where we dive deep into the everyday quirks of life. And today we're talking about something deceptively simple, yet profoundly important: the art of talking nonsense, or as some might call it, shooting the breeze.
Right? We've all been there. You're with someone, maybe a new friend, a romantic partner, and the conversation just stalls. That awkward silence hangs in the air, thicker than pea soup.
Exactly. And then you start to overthink it, like, am I boring? Do they not like me? It's the worst. The input text actually highlights this, talking about people struggling to connect because they shy away from idle chatter.
It's fascinating, isn't it? The input mentions a Know Yourself post about how crucial nonsense can be for building connection. And it makes sense. When we dismiss small talk, we often miss out on those tiny moments of vulnerability that actually bring us closer.
Totally. It's like, think about those little check-in texts, like, hey, just thinking of you. They seem insignificant, but they speak volumes, right? It's a way of saying, I see you, I'm here, and I care.
Oh, absolutely. And the input talks about different types of nonsense, too, sharing mundane details about your day, making silly jokes, even just calling someone's name for no reason. It's all part of it.
It's true. It's almost like a little emotional dance. You offer a piece of yourself, however trivial, and see how the other person responds. And that responsiveness, that's the magic ingredient.
Yeah. And that's where things can get tricky, right? What if the other person just isn't receptive? What if they're the strong, silent type, or they just genuinely don't enjoy casual banter?
Well, that input touches on that too. It says that a lack of nonsense can lead to emotional starvation in a relationship. Without that constant flow of low-stakes emotional exchange, it's harder to build intimacy and trust.
Makes total sense. I mean, how can you feel truly close to someone if you don't know the little quirky details of their day-to-day life? It's the shared silliness, the inside jokes, the random observations that weave the fabric of a strong connection.
So true. The article even gives a guide on how to incorporate more nonsense into your interactions, finding the right person, letting go of the pressure to be interesting, and sticking to safe topics.
Oh, that's smart. Because not everyone is comfortable talking about, say, politics or religion, especially in casual conversation. But talking about last night's ridiculous reality TV show, that's much lower stakes and a great way to build rapport.
So we were talking about the importance of casual chatter, right? And how it can actually be a crucial building block for deeper connection. But this reminds me of some research on weak ties, those casual acquaintances we have.
Oh, yeah? Like the barista at your regular coffee shop or someone you chat with at the gym?
Exactly. A 2014 study by Dunn and Mitchell actually found that these weak ties can significantly impact our well-being. It's not just about having close friends. These more superficial interactions play a role too.
That's interesting. So, like, just exchanging a few pleasantries can actually boost your mood?
Apparently so. It's like these little bursts of social interaction throughout the day add up to create a sense of belonging and connection to the wider world.
I can see that. It's like a little reminder that you're not alone, even in a big city.
Right. And it goes beyond just mood, too. These interactions can also open up opportunities, whether it's a job lead or just learning something new from someone with a different perspective. It's like expanding your social network, one little chat at a time.
So it's not just about feeling good in the moment, it's about long-term benefits too. I like that.
Totally. And speaking of connection, there's also this fascinating research on language style matching. A 2011 study found that when people's language styles converge, they start using similar words and sentence structures, it can actually predict relationship success.
Oh, that's so cool. So, like, if I start subconsciously mirroring my partner's language, that means things are going well?
It could be a sign. It suggests a kind of unconscious rapport, a subtle way of showing that you're on the same wavelength. hmm
Wow. So even nonsense has a hidden language of its own.
It seems so. And it ties into this idea of intimacy and self-disclosure, which Gable and Race explored in their 2006 work. They talk about how revealing even small, seemingly insignificant details about yourself can build intimacy.
Right, because it shows trust and vulnerability, even if it's just about what you had for breakfast. It's like, I'm comfortable enough with you to share this mundane piece of my life.
Exactly. And that builds on earlier work by Race, Clark, and Holmes in 2004, which looked at how responsiveness in interactions, really paying attention and engaging with what the other person is saying strengthens relationships. It creates this positive feedback loop.
So the more responsive we are to each other's nonsense, the stronger the connection becomes. It's like watering a plant with little drops of attention and shared silliness.
So we were talking about responsiveness, right? And how crucial it is for building those deeper connections. But what's really fascinating is how this idea of perceived partner responsiveness acts as this sort of organizing principle. It's like the bedrock upon which intimacy and closeness are built.
Oh, yeah? So it's not just about responding, but about how the other person perceives your response?
Exactly. It's all about that subjective experience. Gable and Race, in their 2006 work on intimacy and the self, really delved into this. They have this iterative model showing how the self and close relationships constantly influence each other, with perceived responsiveness as a key driver.
Right. It's like if I feel like my partner truly gets me, even in the small things, it deepens my sense of intimacy and closeness. It's like a validation of my inner world.
Totally. And it makes me think about Gottman's research way back in '82. He was looking at emotional responsiveness in marital conversations and found that it was a huge predictor of relationship satisfaction. Hmm.
Oh, that makes sense. I mean, who wants to be with someone who just stares blankly when you share something important, right?
Ha, exactly. And even in less serious situations, it matters. Like that Cooper article from 2015, Don't Know What to Talk About, it hits on how important it is to engage in that nonsense, those small everyday exchanges, and be responsive to them. It's not just about finding topics, it's about how we react to each other.
Yeah. So, like, if my partner tells me a silly story about their commute, even if it's not inherently interesting, my reaction plays a big role.
Absolutely, because your response shows that you're present, you care, you're engaged in their world, even in its most mundane aspects. It's like you're saying, I see you, I hear you, and I value this interaction, even if it's just about a delayed train.
That's so true. And that validation, that feeling of being seen and heard, is such a fundamental human need. It's like emotional oxygen.
Right, so picking up on that idea of responsiveness, it's not just about acknowledging what someone says, but genuinely engaging with it. Like if someone's telling you about their crazy commute, you don't just want to go, uh-huh. You want to, ask a question, make a comment, show you're actually listening.
Yeah, totally. It's like you're building on their story, adding another layer to it. It shows you're not just passively absorbing information, you're actively participating in the conversation. And that's what the Know Yourself post, the one we talked about earlier, really emphasizes.
Oh, for sure. And that ties into the whole emotional starvation thing they mentioned. If you're not getting that responsiveness, it's like you're not getting fed, emotionally speaking. It's like a plant not getting water.
Oh, yeah? It withers and dies. Exactly. And then the article's tips, I mean, finding the right person to chat with is huge. You can't force a connection, right?
Totally. It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. It's just not going to work. And then letting go of that pressure to be interesting all the time. Like sometimes it's okay to just be.
Right? Just embrace the mundane because sometimes the most mundane things are the most relatable. It's those shared experiences of everyday life that create a sense of normalcy, of connection.
So true. It's like we're all in this together, navigating the craziness of delayed trains and weird coffee orders and all the little absurdities of life.
Exactly. And by sharing those little absurdities, we're saying, hey, I'm human, you're human, let's connect over this shared human experience. And isn't that what it's all about?
I think so. It's about finding those little moments of connection, those shared laughs, those little glimpses into each other's worlds, even if it's just about what you had for breakfast. Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, who knew talking nonsense could be so profound? And that's it for today's episode of Cheap Talk. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the art of, well, talking nonsense. Until next time, keep the conversation flowing. And remember, sometimes the silliest chats can lead to the strongest connections.
And a big thank you to all our listeners for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review, and keep those conversations going, folks. Bye for now.